Now that we've been looking at a lot of exponent rules, we're going to do just a few more exponent rules. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to use the power of a product property and the power of a quotient property to simplify an expression. Right, the power of a product property simply states this: if I have a times b inside parentheses raised to the m power, that will equal a to the m times b to the m. And the power of a quotient property, if I have a divided by b and it's raised to the m power, that will be equivalent to a to the m divided by b to the m. Basically what's happening is that if you have parentheses, every term inside of those parentheses is going to get the power. All right, so we'll try to keep that in mind as we work through some examples. Okay, example number 1, all of these will be simplifying the expression. The first one is going to be 6x, and this will be raised to the second. All right, the first thing that I like to do is anything that doesn't have a power on it inside of the parentheses, I like to put a 1 on it, so there actually are two parts with no powers. That means I'm going to, since there are two terms, we're going to distribute that 2 to both of those. So this will be 6. Remember from our other exponent rules that a power to a power, we're going to multiply the exponent, so 1 times 2 will be 2. And then x, 1 times 2 will also be 2. So then from here, the way that we can simplify this, 6 to the second power is really 6 times 6, which is 36, x to the second. And then that problem is done. Right, let's take a look at problem 2. Let's say I have 4y to the second z, and this is going to be raised to the third power. Again, I have two terms that do not have exponents on them, so I'll put 1s on them. I now have 3 terms that are going to get the power, so it's going to be 4 to the 1 times 3 is 3, y to the 2 times 3 is 6, and z to the 1 times 3 is 3. And now from here we can simplify 4 to the third, because that is 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64, y to the 6th, z to the 3. Okay, example 3. This one is going to be 2 x to the 3y, and this will be raised to the 6th power. What I'd like you to do right now is pause the video, work out the problem, see how you do, and then come back and see if you got the answer right. All right, there are 2 terms without powers on them, so I'm going to put 1s on each of those. So I've got 3 terms that get the power of 6. So I'll get 2 to the 1 times 6 is 6, x to the 3 times 6 is 18, and y to the 1 times 6 is 6. And then from here we can find out what 2 to the 6th is. 2 to the 6th power is 64, x to the 18, y to the 6. All right, let's try some quotients. Let's say I have 5x to the second over y to the third, all raised to the third power. All right, there is one term that didn't have a power on it, so I'll put a 1 on that. Now each term inside gets the power, so 5 to the 1 times 3 is 3, x to the 2 times 3 is 6, and then y to the 3 times 3 is 9. And then the part that I can reduce, 5 to the third power, is 125, x to the 6th over y to the 9. Okay, let's try problem 5. Problem 5, let's do 1 over 3x raised to the 4th power. And on this one, again, I've got all 3 parts do not have power, so I'll put 1s on each of them. So I'll get 1 to the 1 times 4 is 4, 3 to the 1 times 4 is 4, and x to the 1 times 4 is also 4. And then just simplifying this, 1 to the 4th power means 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. 3 to the 4th power will be 81, and then x to the 4, and we got it. All right, problem 6. Let's say I have 2 over x, y to the third, and this will be raised to the 7th power. Again, I'd like you to pause the video on this one, and then come back when you have your problem done to see how you did. Right, there are 3 terms. There are 2 terms that didn't have a power, so I'll put a 1 on them. All the terms get the 7, so 2 to the 1 times 7 will be 7, x to the 1 times 7 will be 7, and then y to the 3 times 7 will be 21. And then simplifying this, 2 to the 7th power is 128 over x to the 7, y to the 21. And then we got our answer, and hopefully you answered that correctly. Okay, just one note that I would like to point out dealing with negative powers. If I have a negative 2 raised to the 3rd power, that would mean negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which would be negative 8. And then if I took negative 2 to the 4th power, that would be negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which would be a positive 16. So when we're dealing with negatives, if we are raising a negative to an odd power, my answer is going to be negative. And if we're raising a negative power to an odd even power, my answer will be positive. So I would like you to write that in your notes, please. So when dealing with negatives, a negative raised to an odd power will result in a negative answer, and then a negative raised to an even power will give us a positive answer, and that will help us when we go to do some more examples. So hopefully now you can use the power of a product property and the power of a quotient property to simplify expressions.